Welcome to the blue ocean of compliance tips. In this program, I'm going to share with you the compliance tips which is really going to help you increase and maintain the compliance on your site. Today, the topic of the compliance tips is personal. Yes, personal. For any organization, persons are the building blocks of the organization. They are able to make the quality culture on your site. What are the compliance tips? So let me share with you. Today I am going to share the 12 compliance tips with all of you. First is that management must motivate and encourage the excellence. They must identify the excellence. Yes, to develop the quality culture, management should encourage the people who are excellent in the working. The management should encourage this culture with the training, and they should ensure that there must be the qualified personnel to work on the manufacturing area, and there must be sufficient number of the personnel to work and perform any activity. And periodic verification must be done that whether the sufficient number of qualified personnel are there or not. So how you will determine that whether the people are sufficient or not? You can track this with the QMS system, quality management system. You can study the deviation, the backlog and pending tasks, and you can also study how many complaints are there, how many deviations are there, how many non-compliances are there. So based on the investigation of all these, and you can determine that whether the sufficient number of the qualified persons are there on the site or not. Another thing is that how you will know that whether the people are qualified or not. For performing any CGMP activity, you will also have to ensure that the person must be qualified to perform that activity. Means the person should have the required education qualification, they should have the experience, or they should have the training to perform that activity. As per EPIC guidance, there should be competence matrix which will be able to maintain the sufficient number of the qualified people or personnel on your site, right? And another thing is that every person working in CGMP area should have the written job description, and this job description can be prepared for the groups also and for the individual people also, and this job description must be signed by the person for whom the job description is prepared, and also signed by the manager or his or her supervisor. So these were the things you should take care. And another thing is that whenever the person joins your organization, and for every person who is working in your organization, there are few trainings, those must be mandatory given to the people or that person. So what kind of trainings must be provided to the person? So first thing, whenever any person is going to join your organization, so induction trainings are there. And second type of training is that the trainings related to that particular job description which he or she is going to perform. Third type is that CGMP awareness training. Another is that CGMP refresher training. Another type of training is that related to improving and enhance their skill. So there are many types of the training, but minimum training, CGMP training, CGMP awareness training related to their job and the responsibility which they are going to do, and the periodic update training should be given to the people who are working in your organization. And if we will talk regarding the trainers, so trainer can be selected based on the education qualification and their experience and training they have received. In this way, these are few compliance tips. If you will follow this, so there are a major non-compliance which are happening on your site or may happen on your site can be avoided by just following these compliance tips. Whatever topics, whatever tips I am going to provide you, if you will ensure that these practices are followed on your site, then you will be able to attain a very good level of compliance about personal hygiene. The number one is that personal hygiene is important not only to protect the product but also to protect the personal. Okay, and another thing is that following the personal hygiene is important and required to be followed by all staff of the company and also the external persons who are going to come in your organization, in your company. For example, visitors, auditors, inspectors, any of those, if going to enter in your organization, to follow the personal hygiene is required to be followed by all of them. Another thing is, if any person is not trained about the personal hygiene and that person is going to enter in the CGMP area, so he should be accompanied with the person who is already trained in the personal hygiene. Now another tip is that in the manufacturing there are different steps, and in every step, to protect the product from cross contamination, the required gowning procedures which are to be followed should be clearly written in the control document, and those instructions should be followed. And while performing the operation in open activities, the person should be clearly instructed before he or she is going to perform that operation, like what gowning procedures are required, over gowning is required, wearing the double shoe cover is required, and the mask which are required, and all protective apparels to be worn before performing that activity. All the instructions should be clearly written in control document, and those should be instructed to the person. Another thing is that the clothes with top pocket must be avoided. And another thing is that in the final stage of API manufacturing, makeup should be avoided, and wearing jewelry is also to be avoided to avoid the cross contamination. There are different practices which are to be followed, and now question arises that there are control rooms in manufacturing area, like the computer room to control the process. So whether these areas to be covered in or considered in CGMP area? Yes, these are also to be considered in the CGMP area. Eating, drinking, chewing, keeping the food in those areas, storage of the food in those areas are also to be avoided, and those are not acceptable. But in manufacturing area, if there are the meeting rooms, personal offices which are clearly separated for the manufacturing area, these are not subject to restrictions which I have discussed here. There are different things, and there are also points like if the smoking is allowed in the company, so there are different areas to be defined. Another thing is that if the person is suffering from any disease, it is that person's responsibility to inform the supervisor to do the risk assessment, and based on the instruction by the supervisor, he or she will be allowed to perform. If any employee is working in the CGMP activity, that employee comes in the direct contact with the material, so it is the responsibility of that employee to inform the supervisor if he or she is ill or any kind of diseases happen, he is suffering from any kind of the disease. These were the compliance tips about the personal hygiene. Dear friends, if you want to know more about the compliance, then please subscribe my YouTube channel, from where you will be able to know when so many compliance tips, so that you will be able to bring the level of compliance on your site a very high level, and at the time of audit you will be able to live peacefully. You know that documentation is the basic element of CGMP. Whenever you do any documentation, so please ensure that you have to follow the LQA principle. LQA principle you must be knowing, LQA plus principle. Attributable, contemporaneous, legible, original and accurate. So you have to ensure that you must follow the LQA principle. Whenever in CGMP, doing mistake is not a crime, right? But how you correct that mistake, that matters, that is important. So whenever you by mistake you want to write something and by mistake you have written something, so what you have to do? You have to do the single cut and you sign with date, and you have to write the justification that why the mistakes has happened. So if you will follow this, so there is no issue that by mistake you have written something and you wanted to write something. Another thing is that the record should be retained. Yes, based on your policy and guidance, the documents to be retained for their retention period. This retention period is decided based on the guidelines and your policy. So there are few documents which are to be retained for life cycle plus 1 year. You will ask that you want to know that which are those documents those are to be kept for life cycle for 1 year. There are few examples I am telling you. Development report, clinical trial reports and data, right? So that you will have to retain for life cycle plus 1 year. So any data supporting for IND and NDA studies, bioequivalence studies data, that you will have to retain for life cycle plus 1 year, right? And training records are also to be kept for life cycle plus 1 year. There are different documents, and based on the guidance and your policy, the documents are to be retained, right? Another thing is that revision history. First thing is that the document should be reviewed periodically. There should be some guidance in your SOPs. It should be defined that when you are going to revise your documents, for example the SOP. So whether the SOPs are to be revised for every 2 years or 3 years, whenever there will be the change in the document, at that time the document shall be revised. So you will have to define and write in your SOP that when you are going to revise your document. The revision history should tell you the exact changes, what has happened and why the changes are happened. So in revision history you can tell that what are the revisions are made, but why the revisions are made, that might you will get in the change control, right? So in revision history you will have to write date and the changes and the change control number. In that you will write that why the changes have happened. So in this way the revision history must be available in the document. These were the few points. Another thing is that in any document you will have to ensure that data integrity principles to be followed. Data integrity should not be there. Documentation is very important, and you have to follow the good documentation practices. You have to do the online documentation, and you know that online documentation is always beneficial, not as per the guidance, plus for us also. For example, if you are doing some experiment and you are writing online, so it is very easy to write and document all the things. If for example you are doing any experiment or you are performing any activity and you have forgot to do the documentation, then after a few times you will not remember that what you have done. You have to rethink that what did you do or how did you do. So in that way you will have to remember the things, so it will be more difficult to do the documentation. This does not mean that not doing documentation online is acceptable. So there is some acceptance criteria that when you should do the documentation, right? So in this compliance tips I am covering the basic things. You know that you will tell that these are very basic things, but When we not follow the basic guidelines, then only the non-compliance happens, and these non-compliances are very critical. Later it may turn into 483, into warning letter and enforcement action. So whenever you do the documentation, follow the LQA plus principle. It is really make your life very easy, and you will be able to qualify the audit effortlessly. Today's topic is material management for API manufacturing companies. Today, few of them we are going to discuss. The first thing is that whenever you are going to procure any material, any raw material, any key starting material, the material must be purchased against the approved specification. Means what are the exact requirement of that material, and against that specification the material to be purchased. Vendors or suppliers from which you are going to procure the raw material or key starting material must be qualified against the requirement and against your specification. Another key point is that the materials must be segregated as the critical and non-critical material, raw material, and critical material must be handled with more stringent SOPs and procedures. There must be procedure to handle all the activities related to material management. Whenever you are going to qualify any vendor or supplier for your raw material or key starting material, audit must be performed. Who is going to perform the audit of the supplier or vendor? So that auditor must be trained, and the auditor trained to ensure that all the requirements which are there as per the CGMP should be ensured that they should be in compliance with those requirements. So there are many other things also for material management of API manufacturing facility. So like there is first in and first out, or FIFO and FEFO are used to decide that which materials you are going to use before and which material you are going to use later. So when supplier qualification discussion is there, so you can decide the supplier based on your experience, based on your previous data, and based on the track record of that supplier and vendor. And with that you can also compare the results of the testing of your own laboratory. So based on that result, based on the audit of the supplier, and based on the quality of the material which the supplier and vendor is going to provide, you can qualify the vendor. So these were the few things. Other things we shall be discussing in our next blue ocean of compliance tips. So I hope whatever we are discussing here, you are implementing those principles on your site. They are not in implementation, so please ensure that those compliance tips must be implemented on the site. So don't delay for that. Decide what and make the strategy that how you are going to implement those principles. In material management, and in that we are going to discuss receipt and quarantine for API manufacturing facility. This is the second part which we have discussed already. There are many tips I'm going to give you that you will have to ensure on your site, and you have to check that whether these practices are there on your site or not. So first thing is that whenever any material is received in your company, packing of that material must be checked visually. After that material should be sampled, tested, and then released, and after that the material can be used. There are many other things that whenever any material is received, so before release of the material should be kept in the quarantine. Until the material is released after testing, the material should be kept in the quarantine area. So you can do the different arrangement to identify the material is in quarantine. Many warehouses are there where the separate area is there for the quarantine. There are companies where the space constraint is there. Specific colored ribbon is tied to all the containers which are under the quarantine, and the labeling of the quarantine is also specified. So there are different systems by which one can identify that material is still to be released. So you can use the systems as per the company's policy and as per the guidances. So now second thing is that whenever you are going to keep the incoming material or mix the incoming material with the existing stock, you have to ensure that material must be released before you are going to mix that material into existing stock. Another thing is that if the material does not comply this specification, so that material should be rejected. In the warehouse, for rejected material, separate area is specified and that is under the control in the quality unit. So receipt and quarantine of the material is very important by compliance point of view and for the systems of the warehouse. Now whatever material is there in the warehouse, so that material should be periodically sampled and tested. The period of testing can be defined based on the testing and the data of the result of the testing. So that is separate topic, but now we are discussing the tips. The next point is that if non-dedicated tankers are used, then cleaning certificate must be available and the material which is stored in that tanker, in that non-dedicated tanker, should be acceptable to the quality unit which is going to receive the material in that tanker. So there are small things which should be ensured to maintain the compliance on your side for quarantine and release, receipt and quarantine of the material. So today these were the tips. I hope whatever tips I am sharing with you in this blue ocean of compliance tips, you are ensuring that on your side, because without implementation knowledge is not effective and it is not going to help you to maintain the compliance. So do not forget to implement all the tips discussed in this program on your site, and I hope if you will implement all these tips, so you will be able to take the level of compliance of your site to a very high level. Hello friends, so how the reading of blue ocean of compliance is going on. Let me tell you that while you reading, you can do one thing, that you read the exercises given at the end of each chapter, and you can think that how those practices you can implement. For example, if you are reading the chapter of the reasons of the non-compliance, then you can also see that what are the non-compliance practices are going on your side, and based on that, those non-compliances you can fix at the same time. So in this way you are going to get a very good result of reading the blue ocean of compliance, right? So keep on reading and implement the principles of the blue ocean of compliance. And another thing is that I have also started one blue ocean of compliance tips on my YouTube channel, so you can also listen to that. In those I talk with you about the simple principles of the CGMP guidance, right? So those CGMP guidances are very simple, but if you will not follow those principles, then there may be a major non-compliance, major NCs, and you can get the 483s or warning letter or enforcement actions finally. So you can do one thing, that you can read my book Blue Ocean of Compliance, you can listen to the Blue Ocean of Compliance tips, you can also follow me on LinkedIn, and you will be able to read the thoughts which will really going to bring the change within your thinking process, right? So there are a lot of guidances, but it also depends that how we think, right? So if your thinking process will be such that you will be automatically away from the non-compliance, so it is going to help you a lot. So what I try in my post, that I generally discuss about and how to think, right? So that you will be thought leader of pharma industry and you will automatically avoid the non-compliances, okay?
congratulate you that you have taken decision to listen to this talk of Blue Ocean of Compliance, because in this talk I discuss the concepts of CGMP, which is going to help you establish the very good level of compliance, and it will help you to face the regulatory inspection effortlessly and in cost effective manner, right? Whenever you listen to anything periodically, so those things come to your fingertips, right? Today's topic is equipment. Why the equipments are so important, right? So whenever you manufacture any product, equipment plays very important role in that, right? We have to ensure that that equipment is calibrated, its preventive maintenance should be followed periodically, so that you can avoid many unnecessary non-compliance or out of specifications which are caused due to the equipment is not calibrated, right? So in many of the companies this happened that engineers are given rights to decide that which equipments are critical and which equipments are not critical. But actually, in fact, if you will analyze the things, that you will find that there are a lot of equipments on the site, and all the equipments are kept in the category of the critical. So while you categorize the equipments on your site in critical and non-critical, you will have to ensure that the equipments which are directly having the impact on the CGMP, critical quality attribute, critical process parameter, those equipments must be categorized in the critical category, so that whenever the engineers on your site will control the proper functioning of that equipment, so they will able to focus on those critical equipments, and it is really going to reduce the burden on your engineers, so that he will be able to concentrate and focus and follow the stringent guidelines and practices on these critical equipments. So it is very important that categorizing the equipments in critical and non-critical categories, and after that you will have to ensure that critical equipments must be monitored very strictly, right? And after that this also happens that many of the equipments are calibration of the equipments are performed by the external agencies or external parties. So you have to ensure that these external parties must be competent enough to ensure that the equipment is properly calibrated, and periodically you will have to qualify these vendors that they are able to perform their services properly, so that it will have a very good impact on the working of your equipment, right? And you know that the equipment is not properly calibrated, and equipment itself is faulty, and it is not able to give you the proper and accurate results, then whether it will be fine to rely on the results obtained by those equipments, or the product we have obtained manufacturing on that equipment, whether it is okay and it will be fine to fail any product based on the equipment which is itself not calibrated, right? So you can also conclude that no, it is not acceptable. So we have to ensure that our equipments are calibrated properly and as per its schedule, and with the qualified vendors or parties, whichever you think that they are giving the proper services for the equipments. Right? With that, there are many things which are to be followed. That schedule of preventive maintenance is also to be followed. Period of calibration can be decided based on the data obtained for some period. So you will have to study, you have to calibrate the equipment, and you have to study the data obtained from that equipment, and based on that you can decide the schedule of the calibration, right? Similarly, you will have to follow the preventive maintenance schedule, right? Equipment, you will have to also keep in mind many things which are discussed in 21 CFR 211 about the equipments, subpart D, that whenever you select any equipment, so you have to select the equipment very carefully, its size, its design, and equipment should be located on which place, right? So equipment should be designed, or you have to select the design of the equipment so that you are able to get the product which is required. Means whatever, which kind of product you want to manufacture, based on that you will have to select the design of the equipment. Size of the equipment is also should be based on the batch size which is going to be taken on that equipment, right? If the equipment size is less and you want to manufacture the batch of higher size, you will see very non-compliances, like product spillage of the product may happen from the equipment. So similarly, many non-compliance may happen if the size is not suitable for the manufacturing the batch size which you have decided. So size should also be decided and selected based on the requirement of the product you are going to manufacture, based on the size of the batch you are going to manufacture. With this, you will have to ensure that equipment should be placed so that around the equipment there should be sufficient space so that you can clean that equipment properly, you can clean the area around your equipment properly, and operation can be performed suitably, right? And another point is that material of construction, right? So whenever you are going to manufacture any batch, so you will have to select the material of construction of that equipment should be such that it should not react with the product, and the material of construction should be such that equipment will not absorb the material, and it should not react with the material or your product. Otherwise there will be impact on the safety, quality, potency of the product. So these are the things you will have to keep in mind while you are selecting the equipment, while selecting the equipment, about the material of construction of that equipment. Another thing is that whenever you are going to use the filters to filter the product while you are manufacturing any injectables, and you want to filter any liquid, so you have to ensure that the filter should be such that it should not release the fiber in the product. Might be possible that whenever you are going to use that filter to filter any liquid and it is releasing the fibers in that injectable material, so whether it will be acceptable? No, it is not going to be acceptable. So please ensure that the filter should be used such that it is not going to release the fibers in your material. And if your product is such that using these kind of filter is necessary, then you have to take some other actions referring to the guidance and what should we do in that case, right? These were few compliance tips which should be followed while you are handling the equipment. Yeah, and with this, the first thing is that, so whenever you receive any new equipment, or you are going to bring any new equipment or purchase any new equipment on your side, so you will also have to ensure that DQ, IQ, PQ should be performed, and FAT set test should be performed, right? DQ means design qualification, IQ means installation qualification, PQ performance qualification, and operation OQ operational qualification, and FAT means factory acceptance test, and SAT is site acceptance test. So these should be ensured. And whenever you receive any equipment, so at the time of qualification, in proper sequence and as per the guidance, as per the policies of your company, you will have to do the calibration of the equipment, right? So it is going to take you to comply with some basic compliance requirement. These were the few things about the equipment that I want to share with all of you. And with this, I would also like to discuss few things with you, that we always so worried about the preparation of the regulatory inspections, USFDA inspection, MHRA inspection, TGA inspections. But I want to tell you one thing, that whether we can make our thought process such that we are manufacturing product for the safety of the patient, to cure the patient. So if we will manufacture our product with that objective, so we will be automatically following the guidance and guidelines to manufacture the product of the good quality, and we will automatically come to that high level, so that we will be able to qualify the regulatory inspection, any inspection, effortlessly. So this approach should be there with all of us. So with that, I would also recommend you to, with listening to this blue ocean of compliance tips, you also go through blue ocean of compliance. In that you will find many elements which are not discussed in any of the guidelines, and these invisible elements causing a lot of non-compliance on site. And because we are not able to see those elements, and we keep spending the money, and we keep raising the and taking the corrective actions, and those CAPAs are not effective because we are not able to identify these invisible factors. So I really suggest you that you go through that book, you read that book, and you will be able to identify many invisible elements which are causing non-compliance on your site, and you will be able to save a lot of cost and lot of non-compliance on your site. If you are working in pharmaceutical industry, then knowledge of audit and compliance is must. You will say that I am not in the department where we are directly handling the audit. So forget for 1 second that who are you, and you imagine that you are an entrepreneur, you are the owner of the business of a pharmaceutical industry, and you want your industry to grow. So whether you will be hire the people who will contribute in the growth of your business, who will generate the revenue, or the people who are reason of failing in the audits, right? As I have already told you that audit are nothing but the new business opportunities. If you want to sell your product in the US, then you will have to face the USFDA. If you are going to sell your product in the Europe, then you will have to face the European Regulatory Authority audits. So wherever you want to grow in your business, you want to increase the business opportunity, you will have to face the audits. So whether you will like the person who is not contributing in the success of your growth or your organization, or you will like the person who is going to support you in qualifying the regulatory inspections, you will allow to hire the people who are reason of the growth of your organization. So what the answer you have got from yourself? Obviously, you will hire the people who will contribute in the success of your business, in success of your organization. So knowledge of audit and knowledge of compliance is must. And another thing is that as we are in the business of manufacturing the medicines, right? So we are serving to patient, we are solving the problems of patient. So whether it is not our duty to give the good quality of medicine to the patient, and patient can be anyone. Next time anyone from your family, the patient can be anyone from your friend or anyone in the world, right? So manufacturing the good quality of medicine is must. And another thing is that recently I heard one discussion that the blue ocean of compliance, which book I have written, that is for the US market, right? So if you are working in ROW market or Europe market for US market, right? So what is the basic concept behind manufacturing the medicine? That you want to manufacture the product which is going to heal the patient, then only you will be able to grow in your business, then only people will buy your medicines. So manufacturing the good quality of medicine is must, right? If the quality of the medicine is not good, then no one is going to buy your medicine. You are going to get the market complaint, you are going to recall your product, or any enforcement action will going to happen on your company, right? So for different regulatory authorities, the enforcement actions are different, but the result are going to be the same, that the company will not able to grow in the business. So we have to become the person who is going to contribute in the success of the organization, who is going to contribute in the growth of the organization. So knowledge of regulatory and compliance, the knowledge of audit is must, irrespective of which department you are working. So on my channel, every week I make the video, and it is full of knowledge and the thoughts which will really going to impact the way you are work, the way you are think, the way you are going to behave in your organization. So do not forget to subscribe my YouTube channel, so that even one of the communication you are not going to miss, right? Another thing is that in our life, that is the thought process, if we are not growing, then we are decaying, right? So there are only two things happen in the universe, either growth or decay. And if we are not growing but we are stable on our place, but the things are moving forward, if you are not growing, then you are decaying. So which option you are going to select for yourself, right? Obviously you will select the option to be in the growth and not in the stagnancy or being stuck somewhere, right? So for that, every week I bring few thoughts which are going to impact in your career, in your thought process and your business and your growth. If you are not a business owner, then also if you are contributing in the success of your organization, you are contributing in the success of business of your company, that you are going to be the valuable person for your organization. So today we are going to discuss few things in blue ocean of compliance tips to help you for this purpose. So watch the video till the end, and please write your comment about the video and the thoughts and which topic you want in the next video or in upcoming sessions, that also you tell me. And I have read someone's comments that they want my contact details, so all the contact details are there on the website. You can write me mail, you can WhatsApp me on the number I have given on the website. So do not forget to visit my website www.drrupaliparanjape.com. So now we will be discussing today's topic. Today in Blue Ocean of Compliance Tips, we are going to discuss few regulatory observations of US and European regulatory authorities. So I will ask you one question, that what is the waste management on your site? How do you do the waste management on your site? How do you manage the waste management? And what are the systems and what are the SOPs and what are the procedures on your site? That how do you handle that? Do you have any SOP or you don't have any SOP? So it is very important. It is very important aspect. Generally we forget to pay attention on this and take the necessary action on this. So many times that happen on the site, there are a lot of waste, waste chromatograms may be there, and waste papers may be there, and there are many containers with label which are not cancelled. That kind of waste is also there. So how do you manage the waste on your site is also important, because we have seen the many case studies where the regulatory inspectors are going in the scrap yard and they are digging the things out of those. Means there are a lot of waste papers are there, a lot, means many times some failed batches are also there. We have read in the warning letters. So if there will be the system that how to handle the material which is not of relevance, so it is going to help a lot. Because many times what happened, that unnecessary some wrong thought process come into the mind of the inspector or anyone who will see the waste. So even the material may not be of use and it might not be against the GMP, CGMP, but many times what happened, that there is not any person who is authorized to handle that waste. For example, while integrating the chromatograms on HPLC, right? So might be possible that due to printer problem that chromatograms are not readable, the names are not readable. Might be any reason that might be possible, that name on the chromatogram was wrong, so you have changed the name of the peaks, and might be possible due to some reason you have reprinted that chromatograms, right? If that chromatograms they were not acceptable or rejected due to any reason, so you should keep those chromatograms also with the relevant chromatogram which are to be considered for the result calculation of the results. In this way that is to be handled, and whenever you are discarding the material, means empty containers you are discarding, so you have to make sure that the labels on that container are to be cancelled. So these are the small things which we neglect, but if any person raise the question and in the audit any doubt arises due to this waste, so many times and most of the times it is very difficult to answer the questions of the auditor, and we are not, as I have already discussed in the blue ocean of compliance, that we have to ready to be inspected, because we are working for the patient and we want to manufacture the good quality of the medicine. So we are not working only to be audited, right? We are working to set our standard. So we have to set our standards ourselves, right? So today whatever level we are, any company is an XYZ level, so that company has to decide that in future up to what level she is going to see that company, right? So if today I am on this level and that is my target, that on future I want to reach to that level, so we have to set up a standard. So we have to work to raise our standard, not only for the audit. So that should be the thought process. So in this way waste management is to be handled, right? The person who is responsible for the waste management is to be defined. What are the steps to be followed for the waste management are to be specified, and how the waste papers are to be handled, who will be responsible for destruction of the documents, and how the traceability of destruction of the documents to be performed is to be defined in the SOPs, and SOPs are to be followed, right? So this was the waste management. Another thing is that document management system, whether document control room having the SOP, who is going to get the access of the documents, that is to be defined, where the documents are to be stored, and how they are going to provide to the people, how these documents access is to be provided to the people who are authorized person to enter in the document control room. In this way all the document management systems are also to be handled, and both hard copies and electronic documents should have the SOPs, that how they will be managed, right? Means how they should be handled with standard operating procedures, right? These were related to the observations I have read and gone through the warning letters, right? There are few observations I have also read regarding the facilities and equipment. So there are a lot of observations regarding the cross contamination and contamination. So there are different reasons due to which the contamination and cross contaminations happens, like there should be fault in the designing of the facility from starting, and at the time of designing if that gaps are there, so due to that the contamination happen in the product. Another reason may be that equipments are not cleaned properly, due to which the contamination or cross contaminations are happening. And another reason may be that equipment maintenance is not performed properly, so that can also be the reason of the contamination and cross contamination. And there are the reasons that due to lack of awareness or lack of knowledge also many non-compliances are happening, like people are not having the knowledge of computer handling the computerized systems in the laboratory and in material management. So in that case also non-compliances can happen, and many times people are not having knowledge that how to validate the systems, and IT professionals many time are not having the knowledge of the CGMP. Also non-compliances can happen. Many times what happened, the people are not provided the proper training. Due to that reason also non-compliances may happen. Few of the compliance tips which we should always keep in mind while we are doing the compliance on our side. These were the compliance tips. Many times it has been seen if we see the document management system, that this also happens that after the audit has happened, the auditor gives some review comments about that document, and even after presenting the documents to the auditor, people do that, they change the document. And what happened, it might be possible that auditor also takes those documents with him or her, and in the next time when he comes, then what seen is that the document pages are changed. So those pages do not match with the pages which auditor has already having and he has taken at the time of the inspection. So how he will react and what he will think, and about that this is the data integrity practices. So these things to be avoided, and it is not we are going for only to pass the audit or for audit purpose. This is the wrong practice, and this practice should be avoided, because documents should speak the truth, and we should manufacture the product of the good quality, so that we will not have to do all these things, all these wrong practices, right? So if we want to increase the level of our company, so we have to manufacture the product of the good quality. In that case, we will not require any such practices. Okay, so already we will be working in compliance and manufacturing the good quality of the medicines, right? So we have to think that how we can increase the level of our compliance, how we can increase the quality of our production. In that way, we will be already in compliance, into the compliance, right? These were few non-compliances, and there are other non-compliances I have also read, that these were regarding the laboratory, that in laboratory how the people are testing into compliance, how the manipulations are happening, data integrity practices are happening, audit trials are not being reviewed, and I have discussed regarding the computer system related non-compliance. In that, many times happen that audit trials are not reviewed, so in that case there is not control over the activities for which the audit trials are designed, right? And which is the purpose of the audit trial. So in production, these were few non-compliances. In production, other type of non-compliances happens that without testing the batches, they are mixed, right? So if you don't know that whether the batch is having the good quality, and you are mixing that batch into another batch, and you are using that material into manufacturing of the product or drug product, or in any formulation, so how the quality will be impacted? There is no need to tell you that what will be the impact on the quality of the product due to this practice, right? So there are many non-compliance today we have discussed. So these were the compliance tips that these should be avoided, and I have already told you that wisdom is to determine that what we should not do, right? These were the things today we have discussed in Blue Ocean of Compliance Tips, which are going to help you in preparation of the regulatory inspections and raising your level to the high level of compliance, right? Do not miss subscribing my YouTube channel, so that you will be having the different thought process after listening to all the compliance talks which I bring for especially for you. And another thing is that also read my book Blue Ocean of Compliance, from which your thought process is totally going to change. And I have seen the case studies that how deeply this book is impacting the people, how the mindset and thought process is going to change with this book. So these were the Blue Ocean of Compliance tips which we have discussed, many observations today. So do not forget to subscribe my YouTube channel. Also keep reading the articles which I am going to or I keep on publishing on my personal website rupaliparanjape.com, and also read my blogs on LinkedIn, and also read my book Blue Ocean of Compliance, and it is really going to bring the very positive change in your thought process, and you will be able to implement the ideas, and you will definitely going to get the results. So with this, Dr. Rupali Paranjape signing out until we meet again in our next Blue Ocean of Compliance tips program. Okay, thank you.